Good day, and thank you for the opportunity to address this important topic and to invite participants into a new international neurojustice consortium, currently co-led by Dr. Williams and I. I am a clinical neuropsychologist, and I lead a multidisciplinary medical and rehabilitation team for complex injuries and brain injuries. I also oversee a related rehabilitation, resource development, and research firm. The social enterprise aspect of the firm focuses exclusively on the Indigenous community and provision of related services and resources. After a review of the literature, I shall describe some of our activities and then introduce the Neurojustice Consortium, which I will be invited you all to join. The social enterprise aspect of our clinic focuses exclusively on services and resources for Indigenous community within Canada, in Toronto in particular. After a review of the literature, I shall describe some of our activities and programs, and then introduce the Neurojustice Consortium. So in terms of the global neurojustice literature, I will do an overview at this point. The criminal justice system worldwide demonstrates an overrepresentation of those with congenital and acquired cognitive conditions across the globe. Near universally, the largest contingent of those overrepresentations reflect Indigenous persons, Indigenous heritage. The literature also clearly demonstrates the influence of alcohol and substances, in the sense that criminal acts largely stem from the direct influence of alcohol and/or substance use at the time of the index offense. And certainly in terms of our own experience in working with Indigenous people within the correctional justice system, we find this to be almost universally true. Addictions and trauma-related self-medication contribute as well as a common part of Indigenous post-colonial experience. Early indicators of cognitive impairments are often recognized in school-age children under a variety of labels, including intellectual disabilities, including borderline intelligence, learning disabilities, fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, as well as parallel substance and nutrition-related gestational disorders. Acquired traumatic brain injuries, including sports and altercation-related concussive disorders, are also part of this mix. Less recognized factors include neurotoxic water and airborne pre- as well as post-birth exposure, including, but not limited to, resource extraction runoffs, industrial runoffs, pesticides, and home product off-gassing, including furniture and carpet-related off-gassing. To add to this, viruses such as Zika and West Nile also can contribute to neurocognitive and behavioral disorders, as does congenital heart disease and type 1 diabetes. In an important study, an overview by David Bellinger from Harvard Medical School, who studied the related contributions of these assorted etiologies of neurocognitive behavioral disorders, as well as looking at environmental chemicals and other related risk factors. Dr. Bellinger and group confirmed or identified that environmental related chemicals play a very substantive role, on par with some of the other more problematic disorders. In terms of care, education, and justice impacts, Certainly children who are faced with these disorders often don't get the care they need, contributing to an intergenerational pattern of educational, functional, and economic dependency. Justice system involved individuals often face complicating procedural complexities, such as a limited understanding of their civil rights, legal terms and processes, as well as difficulties cooperating with their attorney, difficulties processing and recalling the detailed information required in court proceedings and the lead up to court proceedings, as well as a vulnerability to sacrificing oneself to defend others. In other words, being more vulnerable, being potentially gullible to the persuasion of other people, to perhaps suggest that themselves is the guilty party rather than someone else being the guilty party. The criminogenic factors driving Indigenous justice system overrepresentation are well summarized in a recent volume titled Victims of Crime Research Digest 3, Aboriginal Victimization in Canada, a summary of the literature. 40% of Indigenous Canadians self-reported as victims of crime in the year leading up to the prior year of the survey, identified that 40% versus 20% of non-Indigenous Canadians were victims. In terms of violent crime, Indigenous folks reported 300% more likely victimization versus non-Indigenous people. Demographic and social factors and elevated risks of offending and or victimization. In terms of the worldwide literature, these factors include being young, living in a lone parent family situation, living common law, having higher levels of unemployment, and consumption of alcohol. In fact, each and every one of these factors are highly indicated within the Indigenous population in Canada. So, for instance, in relation to non-Indigenous Canadians, Indigenous Canadians have a mean age of 27 versus 40. 48% are currently under the age of 25. In terms of family composition, Indigenous-led female-headed households reflected 86% of that cohort, at least back in 2001, reflecting the latest census data available. In terms of educational achievement, while there have been gains in terms of the Indigenous community, the community still lags 62% versus 81% in terms of having at least a high school diploma. In relation to unemployment, the unemployment rate, at least as of 2008, was 15% for the Indigenous community, compared to 6% for the non-Indigenous. In terms of annual income, 33% less annual income compared to the greater Canadian population. With respect to alcohol and drugs in victim-related crimes, there was equivalency here. 60% for both Indigenous and non-Indigenous victims of crime. However, this statistic does not break down relative to crimes that may be more violent in nature. The literature is quite consistent with their own community partners, in the sense that it certainly supports the direction that we are moving towards. That is a Indigenous, culturally focused healing, mental health, and prevention strategy to directly address alcohol and substance abuse and dependence as core program